It's time! We're celebrating! It's 5 years! We're rolling on the road! We're rolling on the road! 100 shades of diversity! We're rolling on the road! Oh, rolling on the road! We're rolling on the road. 100 shades of diversity. We're rolling on the road. Take it away.
Thank you, Cousin Pat, all the way from Atlanta, Georgia, doing the intro. We want to say thank you so much for tuning in again. You are rolling on the road with Dr. Kimberly, and today we are in Lansing with Roslund Harris. And we do apologize. I don't know what we're apologizing for because it happens all the time. It's technology. It does what it do when you don't need it to. Yeah, that's just it. It's like a child. It acts up in front of company. So we just started all over again. That's the wonderful thing about it. We just say, okay, we pivot and we keep moving. So we're talking today about guardianship, that it is not an answer to prayer. And many people seek a guardianship when a parent has dementia or Alzheimer's, but there are other, disabilities that folks can have where they would feel that someone needs to have a guardian or help. The family believes that they're being helped by the court by involving them and becoming someone's guardian. And as we have found out, that is not necessarily the truth. From your experience and from what I hear on this end, I would say 95% of the cases do not turn out the way that people are looking for them to turn out. Would you agree?
I would agree.
Or do you think
Absolutely.
the number is too high?
No, I would say 95%, or it could be possibly 100. We don't have those numbers, but it's fairly high. It's fairly high amongst the families that I have met. And just looking at what is happening across Michigan and just to be honest, across the United States. So it's just not an isolated situation to the state of Michigan.
Yeah, if you have the opportunity, we started this series sometime last year when Roslyn was running for Kent County, to be on the Kent County Board of Commissions. And we started the conversation, and then we had Diane Diamond. Can you give us a little bit about her background, please?
Diane is an investigative journalist from New York, and she actually wrote a book and regarding the guardianship. And she's just been very instrumental and helpful in providing guidance and understanding. And it wasn't until I met her in person that I got a full understanding of what is actually occurring in these courtrooms. So, yes.
So, what was nice is that after our interview, you reached out to her and she came on the show. It was phenomenal. People were calling in, texting in. Their questions were being answered in real time. And then people were able to share with her their information and her help them, in the moment. There were many people who said, oh my God, I'm in crisis and I need her expertise. So I am so glad that she was able to do that. But the other piece, that in that time, you have really stepped into that piece. You have been investigating, in a journalistic way. And you even had an opportunity to testify at the Capitol. Tell us a little bit about that.
So I am a advocate, and I became an advocate not by choice, but because my mother is also in the guardianship. So she asked me some years ago to be her voice, and that is what I'm doing. So it's actually me being her voice, along with being the voice of many other vulnerable seniors in the state of Michigan. So I did have the opportunity to testify at the Senate meetings in November of 2024. and meetings thereafter. So looking forward to going to some of the Senate meetings and speaking out and testifying and providing public comment. Also, as well as continuing to press at the county level, at the Kent County Commissioners Board meetings as well.
Can you tell us, what does that look like when you go in front of the senators? What do you get to say? Do you have a lot of time? Do you tell your story?
Well, they actually have an agenda.
Know what that's like.
Yeah, they have an agenda. So basically you can, sign up, raise your hand to provide public comment. And basically it is what it is. It's, you tell your story, or you can bring in, facts that, it may be a certain bill on the table that you support. And then you just give acknowledgement of why you are in support of the bill, and you give examples. Basically me, I use my story. That's the best thing I can use, because that's my truth. And I use my story to try to convince, or not even convince, but to persuade the senators and the legislators that, A, B, or C, this bill is very important because of this reason. And it's not just because of me, it's because of what's going on in the state of Michigan.
What bill was on the table that you were able to testify about?
Basically those bills back then, excuse my memory,
were
for basically reform bills. I'm just going to use that in general. And what they were doing was trying to accomplish some laws that put in place when you are appointing a guardian, or currently, let me speak to the ones currently that I know. Right now, they are working to not legalize, but put laws in place that require the guardians and conservators to be licensed, the guardians to be licensed and certified. So that is also a bill that I strongly believe that should be passed in Lansing. They are not certified and they're not licensed. So that's just an example. The one in 2024, it's been a minute. So, and some of those bills that I were supporting, they kind of fell under the radar. So, and they haven't been, revitalized at this point.
We want to say thank you to Artie Franklin for tuning in on today. We appreciate you and your viewership and your loyalty. You are so kind. We thank you. That, I think, is one thing that we don't understand that we have. We have the power to go to the bill writers, makers, and say, this doesn't work. You can sit in a room all day long and think of the most, scenario of how someone's life should be, but we never stopped to say, okay, can everybody benefit from what we're getting ready to pass? Are there going to be some people that we're not going to be able to service that? What's that percentage? And then how can we balance this? That doesn't happen. Well, they don't think of it in that respect. And so that's why it's important that number one, we run for office. If we can't run for office, then we need to elect those who are going to have our best interest at heart. And then number three, we have to show up. And we have the right to show up, because there's always a section, whether it's an online meeting or if it's in person, where they have the public comment. And you can come and you can bring your information. And if you don't know how to do it or where to go, you can just call me or call Roslund. Hey, we'll go with you. If it's about, you walking your dog and the hours that you got to walk the dog, trust me, somebody is doing a bill concerning that. And then you just have to go, thank you so much for the love. Yes, we got some hearts. Appreciate it. We can do that. What are your thoughts about encouraging people to be responsible for their own selves?
I would say that if you're capable to be responsible for your own selves, you just need to really, make those life decisions where a lot of us don't want to think about our wills and our trusts. And when you create those documents, you want to really be specific of how you want your trust administered, or who you want it to administer. You have to put language in there, get an attorney to put language in there that, A, B, and C if this happens to go in probate. You also want to, I recommend putting something in there about a guardianship, that your family should be appointed first. Um, I've experienced and met other families where power of attorneys and estate plans have been revoked by the judges so that they can um, appoint that family member into a guardianship. So, back then, my people, family members, my parents' ages was not thinking about a guardianship. So there was no reason for language to be specified out there to specify their specific wishes related to guardianship. But now I recommend those who have those documents established that you go back and make those changes, so that there are no loopholes.
Okay, we want to say thank you to Dr. V, Dr. Vertanji. Kendris Bailey is in the house on today, all the way from Detroit, Michigan. Thank you so much. Another faithful viewer and follower. Let's go back a little bit, because we just talk about dementia and Alzheimer's. Those are the cases that I've heard the most when it comes to guardianship, because they're questioning their ability to make decisions, not just even living on their own, but we have veterans who have disabilities, physical, mental, emotional disabilities, that need to put a guardianship in place. So it's not just those with dementia and Alzheimer's, because that's what we always hear.
Absolutely.
You don't hear about any other type of dis that could exist for you to do it. I mean, if your child has autism, you definitely want to have something put in place that when they get older, that no one tries to come along and say, you know what, they don't deserve to live their own life. I think we need to have a guardian, especially when your family has assets. I think that needs to be brought to the forefront, that everybody is not targeted. They are looking for those who have some assets, such as a home that's valued at more than $100,000. If you have savings, if you have annuities, if you have, all y'all folks who used to work at GM and y'all
pensions and retirements,
them big old GM, pensions and checks, the veterans. I mean, there are many veterans who are on we call the special monthly compensation, where they have maxed out on the 100%. And because of more than one disability, and they have more than a 100% rating in different areas, now they're on the special monthly compensation, where that pay starts at about $5,000 or $6,000 a month. That's tax-free monies that people can say, oh, we can control that, because that means, well, you know what, you're not really able to take care of yourself and take care of that. We need to be your guardian and manage that for you. Or those veterans who have waited, like my dad did, got 30 years worth of back pay. And at the time, his wife, her family was trying to put my father and their mother under guardianship to be able to control the money. So tell us some of the things that, I know what my dad did to safeguard that money when he got 30 years worth of back pay. Can you tell us at least 3 or 4 things that people can do to safeguard their homes, their tangible assets, and those assets that may be on the way?
I would suggest, again, getting with an attorney and having the language written very specifically. As far as the homes, my father tried to secure the home before he passed, and the judge ended up removing the children's names off of the deed. So that makes my mother very vulnerable, being in the guardianship, in which they can say, okay, you know what, it's time to place her in a nursing home and go ahead and sell her home. So I would say that, the language be very specific in your documents. Because again, I go back to the elders that are my parents' age. They didn't think about this, and the power of attorneys were written. And then you get into court with the power of attorney. document and the judge revokes it. So it's really something that the laws are going to have to be put in place to hold the judges accountable, because we're you see these seminars where people are pushing to have wills and trusts made and get your power of attorney documented. However, as soon as you get in court, it's out the door. And so it's accountability that needs to be held at the state level to hold these judges accountable for following the laws, and ask, why are you revoking someone's wishes? You know.
We want to say thank you to Vera Jones for tuning in. We greatly appreciate your viewership. Now, let's unpack that a little bit. As far as getting documents, what kind of document do you need to get that you can take into court that is irreversible by a probate judge? Because in case you don't know, that is the judge that you go to when it concerns guardianship. You'll go to a probate judge. What documents do you need? Well, let's say, frame it this way: legal document do you need to have drawn up by an attorney that is irrevocable by a probate judge?
That I would like to know, because everything that my mother had, the judge has control over. So he can determine if what he wants to put into the trust, he can determine whether he's going to revoke or suspend the power of attorney. So that is information that I would love to have to share with everyone, because that's one of the questions, like, why and how does the judge have this much power over someone's estate? Now, what happens is, and I've noticed a pattern where the family members are being deemed incapacitated and diagnosed with dementia and Alzheimer's. Those are the easiest victims to be preyed upon by the courts, because they're silenced. They're easily confused. So they can't go in and object or speak to their lawyer and say, wait a minute, I signed this document. Why is he revoking my power of attorney? They can't do that, because at that point, their cognitive skills have declined. So they're not comprehending and understanding, but then they're with a court-appointed attorney who the court assigns, who also doesn't speak in favor of the ward. So basically, they're silenced. And they can't say, I signed this document, I want my daughter, I want my son. So just during this journey that I've learned, even as a conservator that's appointed by the court, they have control over the trust as well, just as well as the judge. So at this point, I would love to know, if there's any attorneys out there, what can a person put in place that sticks in court?
I love it. Thank you, Dr. Ratanji, for your comment. She says, we need to know this. I know some things that did happen, and my dad did not think that he was going to die 39 days after receiving, 30 years worth of back pay at all. But some of the pieces that he put in place ended up being, I had the unfortunate opportunity to be in front of this same judge that my friend Roslund and those folks who live here in West Michigan, we're all going in front of the same probate judge. And they were definitely trying to do the same thing, is make the mother, incapacitated and get the assets, and namely the money that was left behind. And a couple of things that happened. Now, the bank kind of schooled me on this one, is open up a checking or a savings account and divert the money that you don't want anybody to get, put another person's name, open up a separate account with you and that other person. So they can't touch monies that have you and someone else's name on there. So if you're the person that is deemed incapacitated or should be at any given time, you can set up a separate account. So you can have only the account that they see, and you turn that in, that just has your name on there, or you and your spouse, and that's fine. That's one. The second thing is if you can liquidate some of your assets into cash and buy insurance policies and pay the full value. So if you want to give, we're going to give Roslyn $200,000 because we have $600,000 that we have in liquid assets. So we're going to get Roslyn, her brother, and her sister. We're going to give them each $200,000 a piece. Well, you go and you take that to an insurance company and buy a $200,000 policy. That money is gone. Can't be used anyplace else, nor can it be taken. And then, you guys are, taken care of. The family home, turn around and you can sell it to a family member for $1. And now your family member owns that house. You stay there as long as you want to, and you turn around and you can even come up with a rental agreement saying, hey, I'm renting the house from my daughter. Those are just some things that I learned from dealing with my dad.
Yes. And one thing I want to piggyback off what you said is, and what I've learned through this journey is when a guardian and conservator, because in West Michigan, they're one and the same. That's one person that's serving in dual roles. Mm-hmm. When they are appointed as conservator, their job is to secure those bank accounts, whether they're joint or not. The conservatorship trumps that joint account to secure the Social Security that's being deposited into the account. That's what I've learned so far.
Y'all heard it here. Look, y'all heard it. Yep, that's my language. I meant that. I repeat it when I said you heard it. Mm-hmm. You heard it here first. Some of the things that you can do, and it's imperative that we protect ourselves. It's unfortunate the number of stories that I've heard after, I did the show with you, and then I did the show with Diane Diamond. People were coming out of the woodworks. Dr. Kim, let me tell you my story. Dr. Kim, let me tell your story. Even down to my friend who right now is being threatened by the judge, trying to be ruled incapacitated so that they could take her home. And she's like, I'm not leaving this house. And they ordered her to get a test done to see how incapacitated she may or may not be. And the test was $2,500, and they wanted her to pay for it out of pocket. And she says, you guys are controlling all of my money. How's that supposed to happen? Well, you have like 15 days to get it done. And if you don't, then we're going to go ahead. We're going to take your home and we're going to put you in a home and we're going to sell your home. Frantically, I'm getting these texts, Dr. Kim, I need you. Okay, well, we're going to pray about it. And she talked to her primary care. Primary care was able to get the evaluation done through her own doctor and doctors that's in their group and not go through the court appointed. Y'all see my little fingers. We won't get, I don't know how far we're going to go down that rabbit hole of how many people may be involved when it comes to the guardianship. But she got it done through her primary care, and she was deemed in her full faculties. So we're just like, yay, that's a win. I mean, there's nothing that he can do about it. It was a slap in the face for him. So I just told her, I said, you know what? You need to have a good offensive and a defensive plan, because for him, it did not work. Now, where do we go next? So then the next thing that came up is that somebody stole her car and totaled it. So, and I said to her, these are little things. I would not be surprised that they had that set up, because it's amazing how it happened right after she was not deemed incapacitated.
Well, there is retaliation that does happen. And I'm currently being retaliated against and have been for quite some time. So just want to go back a little bit when you asked, what can a person do to ensure that they're have documented, and something popped in my mind where it's called supportive decision making. Guardianship should be the last resort, and a court appointed guardian should be the very last
Okay,
resort.
wait a minute.
Supportive decision making. And what that is, it allows this person that, say for instance, like my mother, to play a part in making decisions for her. She just has short-term memory loss. She can still comprehend. She can still understand what you're saying, and she still can respond. So this is what they don't want to see happen, because they want that person silenced so they can take full control. So if you do have something written, a power of attorney or a patient health designate or trust, whatever, you want to ensure that you put in there that supportive decision making is something for your priority for you and your family, to keep a guardianship from being established, a court appointed guardianship. So I just wanted to kind of throw that out there. So I know there are some bills where there are in Lansing where that's being spoken of currently.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully, it'll give some of the, the autonomy has been taken. Your rights have been taken. You've been silenced in court. So it'll give some of the vulnerable population an opportunity to make decisions in their own health care, in their own life, and with their family.
One of the things that I've done is I've created a team, my advocacy medical team, and they are now at every appointment, whether they're physical or by phone or both. Sometimes I have both of them, and they both happen to be my caregivers as well. So now they're able to document day to day, what I look like, what I'm doing as my caregivers, and we're checking in, and then they're attending my doctor's appointments on a private level. Is there's some things with HIPAA that you're not supposed to involve a caregiver in, but then on the personal side, they're there as well, and they come in as that part for me and not as a caregiver. When they're a part of my medical advocacy team. And so anything that's being said to me is being said to all three of us, and then all three of us have an opportunity to weigh in on what was said by the doctor. They can't just make arbitrary appointments or make decisions. Because one of the things that I was doing, I'll come in as Dr. Kimberly, the advocate, and sometimes I just need to come in as Kimberly, the patient. That you do have folks that are behind you, and you don't have to have those dual roles. So I would suggest to everyone, even if you feel that you're able-bodied and there's nothing wrong, you need to have someone in your tribe, in your village, that you can be honest with, especially if you're a woman and you're premenopausal. That means that you're still going to have some issues, concerning your body. And you want somebody who's gonna be there. You don't want them to be there in the emergent state, but during the maintenance time as well.
Yes, I would agree. It's very important to have a team and to have them with you at the doctor's office and make sure everything is documented. Documentation goes a long way. And that same team can also be that team if you ever were to be in probate court, could be those same individuals that could be your voice in court and can also be your witnesses. Absolutely. You got to make a strong case. You got to make a strong foundation for yourself, I should say. Mm-hmm.
We want to say thank you to Barbara Young, who is tuned in on today. I appreciate you, Barb. Wonderful, wonderful person. Now, the time is now 4:51, 51 minutes after the hour. You are rolling on the road with Dr. Kimberly. And we are rolling here in Lansing, and we're talking to Roslund Harris, and we're talking about guardianships, that they are not an answer to prayer. And, I came up with that because of an emergent text message that I got, just last Thursday, as a matter of fact. And I said, Lord, oh, okay, I know what we're talking about on Tuesday. Is talking about these guardianships, where the family thinks that because their loved one, if they have a mom and a dad, with this particular family, the mom and the dad, both their health was ailing. And because all the kids are busy with their own lives, that this would be the best route to go by getting a guardianship, that they would have legal power to take over their parents, estate, and they would have assistance from the court backing them. And now at this point, the court has superseded the family member who's the guardian, and now they have kind of booted them out of the way, and they're really taking over. And so I said, the person who is living it right now in the moment is Roslund Harris, and I can make that direct connect with you right now. And so I'm grateful for those who are further up in the process in their lived experiences. And if you weren't here earlier, she has testified before the Senate here in the state of Michigan, not just over here. Y'all know, here we go. This is Michigan, and we right here, that's where we are in the show. She's like over right about here right now on the show. And she is actually in the city where our senators are. And she was able to just walk on over there and testify in front of them that we do, as citizens, have the right to do that. There is a portion, and every single, time that they have a session, that they open up for public comment. Where do you stand right now as it relates to your mother's case? Do you think that all of the publicity around you, because it gets back, so y'all just need to be prepared, because people talk, and do you think it's been a help or a hindrance with being so involved?
Being involved can be a hindrance. The judge, they obviously watch the Senate meetings, and the judges, even other advocates and other victims' family members who have spoken out have been retaliated. Even myself personally, been sanctioned with fees that I don't owe. I've just noticed, like in the court hearings, he'll yell at me in the court hearings, just trying to intimidate and bully. But one thing about me is I trust in God, and I honor my mother, and no one is going to intimidate me. And no one's going to silence me, because that is my mother. That's the woman who gave birth for me. So if I have to leave here fighting with my last breath, it's going to be spent on my mother. Hallelujah. Here,
yes,
fighting for my mother's rights, and I will not quit. Ooh, so it does get back. It gets back. It most definitely gets back.
Do you think that, you said that there's been some retaliation and bullying, but don't you think somewhere in there is some sort of respect to say, you know what, let me back up a little bit. This is not like the rest of the folks that I'm able to do this to. Let me see if I can't find a middle of the road on this issue with them.
They don't really try. It's usually, if there's family conflict, that's what he rides out. He doesn't want to hear anything else. I have an attorney that represents me, and it's just, to me, when they're so focused on getting this person into guardianship, that's it's straightforward. They don't really hear anything else. And another thing that I've noticed with my case, my mom's case, and other cases that I've actually went down to attend, or family members that have reached out to me, I've noticed where there's a guardian that's already sitting there. So when he comes out to the hearing, he's already made in his mind that he's going to appoint this person. And that's also something that I saw with my own mother. This person sitting in the hearing in August, and then October 20th, the same person shows up and he appointed him as my mother's guardian. So I was deemed unsuitable. We talked a little bit earlier about court appointed and unsuitable family members, and I was deemed.
What makes you unsuitable?
Well, right now there is nothing documented in Michigan law to indicate what unsuitability looks like. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
So he actually said I was unsuitable for taking my mother to a dental appointment as a conservator and her daughter, while my sister was the guardian. And appointment was made to put my mother under anesthesia for 2 hours, and I thought that was very risky. Reached out to my siblings, they didn't respond. So I made some calls to her dental office, and they said, "No, Roslund, don't do that. That's a risk to your mother. She's 79 years old. You can't put her under anesthesia for 2 hours." So I scheduled an appointment for her to be seen at another dental office. He held that against me. He said I was unsuitable because I shouldn't have been acting as the guardian. Excuse me, that's my mother. Just a frivolous reason to appoint my mother into this guardianship. I don't have a background. I don't have a criminal background. I mean, I check all the boxes. I'm probably more qualified than any of his guardians that he has.
Mm-hmm.
But because he couldn't find anything, he had to create his own narrative to find me unsuitable. So that's another topic that I bring up when I go to these Senate meetings. What does that look like? You have to define for these judges what unsuitability looks like, because they're just making up anything willy-nilly off, to put some.
No. Oh, you went away. Hello?
I'm here.
Okay, it's blank again.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can't see there. Your picture's not there.
I can't hear you now.
Can you hear me? Hello?
Can you hear me? I can't hear you.
Yeah. Can you hear me? Okay. We are grateful for the 38 minutes that we were able to get this time, and we thank you so much for tuning in. Again, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please reach out here to the show, and we'd be more than happy to get you connected with questions. And you guys have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you on tomorrow.